Found in the quiet woods of the Midwest are the faint signals of a broadcast run by a bearded man who has not felt the touch of a person in years. Feeling the strange cries of the spirits of the trees, he reaches, inviting you into the Java Fog.
Welcome to Java Fog, recorded on December 1st, 2019. I am Dirk, and with me is a guest, a very good friend of mine, Dark. Dark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm a little hungover, or I'm not hungover. I'm not going to tell you which one it is.
Well, that's why we have the coffee and the mini tacos. It's all to help you with whatever illness you might perhaps have.
That sounds delicious.
God, how is the Snickerdoodle coffee anyway? It is damn good, isn't it?
I really liked it. I think it needs more Snickers.
Son of a bitch. All right, this is one of those podcast episodes. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I brought you in here because you and I have a good long history of some very mutual music, actually. And I figured we can dive into that and talk about you doing DJ work, and really any kind of hot takes or any kind of risky takes you want to get into. That's totally cool with us. And then any subjects you want to break into. You and I actually have some history with Dungeons and Dragons as well, so there's a lot that we can get into.
Yeah. To start off, then, bringing up Dungeons and Dragons, which you and I have been doing for well over a decade or so. The idea of combining the industrialized sounds and the concepts of industrial music into Dungeons and Dragons was a lot of fun. There was actually a template that I had found called Half Machine that you can add to characters to make them, we'll just call them more industrial for lack of a better term.
Sure.
If you ever get the chance to find that template, you can find it online. It was in one of the Dungeons magazines, I believe. And you can make them into pretty much whatever you want. And I made Kane from WWE. I made him into a D&D character because I'm a tremendous nerd.
Yeah.
So, but it really helped me. It felt like I was combining like elements of things I liked into one character who I called a Big Red Machine, as his I don't know, not his pseudonym, his tag for his character on the WWF at the time. But combining those kinds of things, it combined everything I love into one solid, I would say tangible in forms of D&D.
Yeah.
One tangible concept that I really liked. And my players had no idea what I was doing because none of them were wrestling fans or industrial fans. And so I appreciated it. No one else appreciated it nearly as much as I did.
They're like the kind of people that would know who John Cena is, but nothing deeper than that surface level.
Right, the very, very basics. So I could call him a Big Red Machine, and they'd be like, okay, is he red? I'm like, yes, he's red. He's red with flames, and he shoots fire. But it was I play D&D to warm my own heart, and no pun intended on the fire aspect of it. But combining that idea of industrial ideas and industrial music into a D&D character really changed the game for me. It gave me that idea that I can do anything in this world that I've created. It changed the landscape for me and my players. It was a lot of fun. Do it if you ever get the chance to.
So now you and I are the type of players that prefer the older I don't want to say so much that it's more rich, but I tend to compare 5th edition to D&D with training wheels. And I tend to go for D&D 3.5, and I go for Pathfinder as well. In fact, that's what, like, you and I in our group played 3.5. What directed you towards that kind of area instead of introducing these new players that we had to 3.5?
Well, the idea of 3.5 initially was because I spent a lot of money on those books. And so if I'm going to spend thousands of dollars on books, I'm going to get my use out of them. But
yeah.
back to your point of D&D with training wheels, it seems that every new edition, people think it's D&D with training wheels. When 3.0 came out, people said, and I'm quoting here, it's so easy a monkey could play.
Yeah.
And and then when 4th Ed came out and I started playing 4th Ed, and the skills were considerably more compact into like 15 skills, I was like, this is way easier to learn than 3 or 3.5. And then when 5th Ed came out, people were like, this is way easier. It's training wheels. And I'm like, every new edition is D&D with training wheels.
I mean, the Elder Scrolls has that same problem too. Like Daggerfall was so in depth with all of its mechanics and things that you were able to do. And then Morrowind comes out, and everyone, like, the people tend to look at Morrowind with such nostalgic lenses on, and we don't notice that, like, hey, yeah, before Morrowind is actually in training wheels compared to Daggerfall, and then the series has been accused of dumbing down with each new edition, and I can attest that to myself, actually. But I understand the idea of wanting to be able to use the books that you've invested in, not just your money, but your time of being able to understand them as well. So it's hard for me to find people who are doing Pathfinder or 3.5, despite the amount of time that I put into Pathfinder, which is my beloved. And because everyone is wanting to do D&D 5th edition, because that's the edition that's out there and available, and you can buy the books for right now too.
Yeah, everyone likes to play with the shiny new toy.
Yeah,
but you can still find people who play, First Ed and AD&D, and pretty much in any large city, any of the gaming shops, you'll be able to order the books and find a game, and there'll always be people playing with THAC0, which screw THAC0, by the way, if I may make that hot take.
What is THAC0?
THAC0 is the old term that they used in 1st and 2nd Ed, and it meant 2-hit AC 0, and basically your low rolls were better. And it's very different from what we as experienced 3.0 and 3.5 and Pathfinder players would call good.
Well, I mean, I am also familiarized with the D100 system from the Warhammer 40K role-playing games as well. Those, my God, my dude, the stories and the gameplay that I've had from Dark Heresy 2 and Dark Heresy, oh my God, if I could relive those, I absolutely would.
I was really big into like the D10 system with Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf, and if you ever get the chance to play any of those games, if you have a good storyteller or a good GM, those games can get really, really interesting. But
okay, let's use the white, isn't it White Wolf?
Yeah.
Okay, let's use the White Wolf games to then segue into like the bigger topics that we were going to get into. Describe those games to me, because I have never had the chance to play the White Wolf games.
Oh yeah, White Wolf is great. I really like their version of the D10 system. So basically, you could put yourself in pretty much any sort of landscape that you'd like. You can go modern, you could go futuristic, you can go medieval, those fantasy realms. But my favorite aspect of it was that you could just be modern. You could walk around a city that that you've walked around. Growing up in Detroit, we used Detroit as our base because we knew it, and that we could walk down a city block and we could go to these clubs that we've known about, for years. And so you get a good storyteller and you create your characters based on whatever you want. If you want to use werewolf or vampire, let's stick with werewolf before I get too sidetracked, because I'll go on a tangent. So you would have your clan and your age. Normally you would want to start like you're more of a freshly turned vampire. It gives you a lot of mystery. It gives you a lot of experimentation and a lot of introduction to the world of being a vampire, and it lets you, as a human playing a vampire, learn about what the system is based on, or what they base vampires on, the Bram Stokers or the any Anne Rice vampires, based on whatever your storyline or your storyteller wants to whatever they want to use as their basis for it. But you make a vampire, make a Night Walker who, what do you want to do? What kind of vampire do you want to be? Do you want to be a brute vampire who uses a lot of force? Do you want to be like a mind-melding vampire when it messes with people's minds? Do you want to be the charismatic? Do you want to be anything? Like, take a D&D character. You could turn that into a vampire. So the White Wolf system is based on successes, which was very different than my, 10 years of playing Dungeons & Dragons on the D20 system. Switching to a D10 system was really confusing at first, and rolling above like a 6, and you're like, that's a success. How many successes did you get? You got 3 successes? Okay, then you did better. And I just didn't, it took me a long time to get used to, but it was actually a very solid system. So it's all based on your storyteller.
Actually, you mentioning that it's based off of success and degrees of success. The Warhammer 40K role-playing games do the same thing as well. Like it's all in like you're rolling a D100, so you're doing 2 D10 dice, and then you base your levels of success based off of the roll that you make. And so I think I could easily adapt to a D10 system. I think it might be a little bit more simplified than what I had. So
yeah, by playing other games, like when I started, I was only exposed to the D20 system, so I had no idea what I was doing outside of the D20 system. And so if you've already experienced different systems other than the D20 system, like you said, the D100 system, yeah, I'm sure that it would be an easier transition because you're not limited to one block of knowledge, the D20 system. The same thing with getting into champions. I don't know if you've ever used the hero system. That's a D6 system, which is a lot different than the D10 system. It's a lot different than the D20 system. But the hero system is really good for changing for changing what your characters are doing and how they're doing things, the game mechanics. It's really cool to take the D20 system, changing your perspective on it into the D10 system, and then taking your perspective on that and changing it into a D6 system, multiple dice, multiple successes. How well are you using a skill? Like, if you want to know something about an ice arena in Japan, then you can roll dice to see what you know about this ice rink stadium, whatever it's called, in Japan. And that's something that I think that D&D, the D20 system has an access to, but I think that other systems might do it better. And that's one of the reasons I like the D6 system in that regard. But that's the hero system. If you ever get the chance, play Champions. Play the hero system. It's so much fun. You can do anything.
Oh, yeah. Now, the aesthetics for the White Wolf games can actually be very tied into something that I might associate with, and that is the industrial scene. So the industrial scene is how you and I met a long time ago from the affiliate gigs that were around. Now, like, you and I became much more acquainted at a local bar, but we met earlier, like during the days when DJ Grimm was much more active in his gigs that he did. So what I guess maybe to start off with, how do you define the industrial music genre?
So the industrial music genre, it's really a diverse group. It's really tough to just pin down one aspect. Basically, you and I both know the history. It started in the late 60s. Some people think. I would go with the 70s, where the groups started using this avant-garde style, adding, what is this? This is a sound. Let's make it into music. And that's how, first of all, I think a lot of music is formed. Taking these experimental sounds and changing them into something which I would call beautiful. I don't know if other people would call hammers hitting anvils or random static beautiful, but you can turn it into something that's unheard of before and make it into music that an electric guitar would have done, 60 years prior or 40 years prior. And that has now morphed into what we hear today, thanks to groups like Laibach, which you had pointed out earlier to me, mainstreaming by Nine Inch Nails, and even Fear Factory, or groups like Rammstein and Marilyn Manson. Like, these people have taken these sounds that Skinny Puppy in Canada, or KMFDM in Germany, or Ministry in the United States would have taken from these experimental sounds and morphed it into, groups that we would hear today in our clubs, like in our Fellion days, or any of the major cities in America will have a goth night.
Yeah.
And you can go and hear these electronic industrial sounds that have been morphed by techno and metal and things like that. It really makes for a diverse group. How do you define what these sounds are? It makes it difficult to just pin down this one thing is considered industrial and this one thing is not considered industrial.
Yeah, I think it's industrial to me is more of like it is something that is heavily using synthesizers. It is heavily using abstract sounds and definitely turning into something that, as you would describe it, is beautiful. The idea of hitting anvils with hammers. It's something that was very punk back in the day, actually. So punk was like the deconstruction of rock and roll music, and just getting into the mindset of like, just learn a couple of chords and then you can just play with distortion and heavy drums and call it good. And I watched a documentary of Nine Inch Nails from a long time ago, and it gets into the history of Throbbing Gristle, and they described it as like, in layman's terms, they didn't really know what the hell they were doing. They were just throwing things against the wall to see what would stick. And eventually they came to something that just worked with what they were going for. And if I listen to Throbbing Gristle right now, it sounds like a mess.
Yep, that's true.
It definitely sounds like a mess. But without that, I don't think that we would have developed the sounds and the different music that we were able to get into in our earlier years. We wouldn't have what happened with Ministry, what happened with Nine Inch Nails. Like we definitely have that tinkering around to thank for this. I should probably explain what Aphelion is. So in earlier days, you were able to go to different clubs or scenes, and there were dance nights that featured the industrial music that you and I would go for. Mm-hmm. So it would play things like Nine Inch Nails and play things like Marilyn, maybe a little bit Marilyn Manson, KMFDM, Combi Christ. This was something that was full of people that were very close friends, and something that they looked forward to every first and third Sunday of the month. Mm-hmm. And it was like, God, it was a night-long party going until the bar closed. And we've had different locations for Aphelion as well. And so, like, Aphelion is something that happened across the United States and definitely in areas like in Europe as well. It's just Aphelion was the name that we had for our scene at the very least.
Yeah, and the idea is that it was a place for people who looked like us, who liked the music that we like, who dressed like us, who I would dare say thought like us, at least on specific aspects, that everyone belongs somewhere, and we want places like that were places where people like who look like us belonged, who we could dress how we wanted to and not be judged for lots of white face makeup and black eyeliner, or interesting clothes with chains and straps just hanging off them, and more post-punk hairstyles. We could just look how we wanted to, and it was a safe place that we could just be and we could enjoy the music that we wouldn't hear anywhere else. You don't hear KMFDM on the radio. You don't hear Ministry unless it's Halloween. Sometimes they play like on the Halloween stations.
Oh, yeah.
And even some of the rock stations, thankfully, this just shows how the mainstreaming, which I would attribute heavily to Nine Inch Nails, the mainstream of industrial music, you can hear some, at least elements of it still today, thanks to your Nine Inch Nails, your Marilyn Mansons, your Rammsteins. And that kind of thing has, these kinds of spaces has introduced people to these kinds of music. That's how I learned about almost all of these groups, was thanks to these nights where I could just go and feel like I belong somewhere as an 18-year-old kid who didn't belong in the techno club, who wasn't a popular kid in school. And I'd always felt outcasted. So being here was like my home. Being at these nights gave me a place to belong. And so that kind of thing just sticks with you the rest of your life, having a place, having a home.
You know, the funny thing is with Aphelion, and you were talking about people that looked like us. I would go to Aphelion wearing trip pants, Chucks, and Insane Clown Posse t-shirts. So it's like I was still in some form of way like fish out of water compared to other people that were there as well.
And what's interesting is that no one would have judged you for any of that.
Yeah, I never got shit from anybody for it. No. Even though like the Juggalo scene and the goth scene were completely different.
Right, they had overlapping qualities like trip pants and black clothes and makeup, or some varieties. But you could go to these clubs, and you could go to these clubs wearing, red and black flannel and blue jeans, and people are like, "Hey, we're glad you're here. You look a little like a punk, and we're gold with that." Or you live in Iowa, so of course you're going to wear flannel and jeans. That's just what you did here in this area. But even in the clubs in Detroit, where I would dare say, hot take, that they're a little more hardcore than Iowa. I don't know if you would agree with that. I don't know if you've ever been to a club outside of the big cities we live in here in Iowa. But the clubs in Detroit might be a little more hardcore. Hot take. It's a matter of opinion.
So tell me about that. How were they hardcore in comparison?
Okay, so this is great. So the first club I ever went to, it was a techno night, and I kind of like didn't feel like I fit in very much, but I had fun because I got to dance and. So anyway, I was wearing my fishnet shirt over under a short sleeve button up. And so I felt comfortable in my clothes, but I didn't feel like anyone else there was no one was dressing like me. So I was a little out of place. So anyway, my buddy told me about this place, and here's a shameless plug for the place because I'm going to be going back to it when I go back for Christmas. It's called Leland City Club. It's a goth night that's been going since 1993. Which I would probably argue is the longest running weekly goth night in America. If anybody finds another one, no letters, please. So my buddy took me there. I'm 18 years old. It's the second night I've ever gone to anything that anyone would consider a club for music or anything like that. And I walk in and it's dark and there's smoke all over the place. Like people are smoking like crazy. And so, as you may be able to hear, I'm a giant. So I'm about a head taller than a lot of people, and so I get there, and my head's literally in this cloud of smoke. So I can't see more than 20, 30 feet ahead of me, and all the walls are painted black, and there's a little bit of white designs, and so it's hard to see. But I started talking to people, and they said the first rule of City Club is don't touch the floor. And I was confused because why not? Why not touch the floor? And people, they had to explain to me, well, people spill drinks. People ash their cigarettes. People spit, vomit, release, we'll call them other fluids from parts of their body.
Ooh.
Yes. On the floor.
Oh.
Yeah. And so me as an 18-year-old kid who has no experience with any of this, I was like, oh, that's gross. So now granted, no one's whipping it out and peeing on the floor. There were bathrooms. It was indoor plumbing. They weren't that destitute.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting, thought in my head. And so I'm like, okay, don't touch the floor. Got it. And so when your first rule of a location is don't touch where you're walking, then you already know that this is not a place where you would think that, Iowa is just as hardcore as this place. Like, unless you're talking like a pig farm, which I wouldn't call that hardcore.
Actually, I mean, you can hide a dead body in the pig farm.
Right. There are hardcore elements. Come on. Let's not be dumb about this. So, but I seriously, my first time on the dance floor, and it was like an old ballroom that they had painted black and with like 30, 40-foot ceilings. And I seriously, my first thought, I looked up and I wondered when the blood was going to fall. Because I had seen the Blade movie fairly recently, and that club scene was stuck in my head because you're going to a goth club. Well, Blade's kind of a dark movie. It's got a club scene, and blood rains from the ceiling. So when is it going to rain blood? And it never rained blood. I don't know if I'm disappointed by that or not, but it never did. But like, it had that kind of feel to it. Like, this is something that you don't see outside of this kind of scene. That I would say that people who don't know about these clubs or have never been to these clubs, they just don't know the feel of it. And so they can't know until they experience it. So just talking about on the microphone here, I can only paint a picture for you. You got to go to these things. You've got to go to a big city goth night and experience it for yourself. And you can feel like this is different from everything else I'm going to feel, which has a term for it. I just don't remember what it's called. Sonder, something like that.
Okay, I think so.
So if anybody, I encourage anybody, go to a goth night, dress up however you want. You can go in a tuxedo and they'll be like, you clearly fit in. So
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think that the scene is starting to die out during these days? Because I don't hear it as prevalent. I feel like people have been moving on to other genres of music, and a lot of us that went to Affiliate, we've just been getting older, and with that came more responsibilities. Some of us got married. Some of us have careers that get in the way of being able to be more involved with these scenes. I didn't know I'd be podcasting back then either, so it's like that gets in the way of a lot of my social life too.
I would say that you're probably right, at least in some of your reasoning. I don't know if it's dying out or not. Like, there's a lot of talk about keeping the scene alive, and the idea that a scene itself will die out is not uncommon, but we need to keep talking about it. We need to be getting new people into these kinds of things in order to keep that scene alive. And as long as we're doing that, then I think that there's no reason why it would ever die out, at least in my lifetime. It's just a matter of getting those new people interested and letting them experience the same experience that I had when I was 18. The problem here in Iowa is that there's no real good opportunity for an 18-year-old to experience this kind of same experience because all the clubs are 21 plus. Even in Iowa City, it's like 19 plus. And so these people don't have the chance to experience the goth night where they draw the X's on your hand because you can't buy alcohol, like I had to experience. So if we as adults can get people interested, get 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds interested in this kind of music and introduce them to more than radio rock, which I'm so tired of people sending me, this song is awesome, and it's a song I hear on the radio every day. There's more to music than the radio.
Or like when someone introduced me to a Billie Eilish song, I had no idea who she was, and I just recently found out that she's 17 years old, going on 18 very soon, if not already, and so you're gonna have a hard time writing a deep song without some sort of someone writing the music for you, and then you're the mouthpiece for that music. And to me, it's a very disgusting industry when we have that kind of thing. I am actually against celebrities who are minors. And so with the industrial scene, it feels a lot more expressive. It feels more natural in the way that people are trying to express themselves. I can go back to Trent Reznor. I mean, Trent was Trent was going through major problems back during the days of Downward Spiral and definitely for Pretty Hate Machine. But he was able to figure out ways of being able to express himself through the instruments that he had at the time. And then as things progressed, Trent was able to play with more and more technology to develop new and different sounds and create what I think is a masterpiece at this point, Year Zero. So this is something I genuinely appreciate. I feel like I'm actually listening to the what's going on inside the artist when I listen to this genre of music.
And I agree with you. I think your assessment's spot on there. But if you look at the history of music, at least starting into like the 40s and 50s, when you've got rock and roll, in my opinion, was a way for these people to express themselves. I mean, I guess you could even go back as far as blues. Blues was written for people to express themselves. That's why they wrote the songs they wrote.
Oh, yeah.
And so rock and roll was based on blues. And so that's, with the addition of obviously other things. So they use it as a way to express themselves. And then into your industrial music in the 70s, or punk music. Let's start with punk. Punk music, you played 3 chords and you yelled. And that was a way for you to express yourself. You were mad at the government, play 3 chords and yell, punch your guitarist, and it's real punk rock. Like that's the Ramones, circa 1973. That's Sex Pistols, circa 73. So you get into industrial music, and it's what am I hitting? What kind of noise can I make and turn it into music? How can I express my views on fascism or the government or police or life or romance? How can I express this in a productive way that makes me happy, that lets me vent all of my emotions out into the cosmos? And so taking these kinds of sounds, they vented, they expressed themselves. And I think that young people are always looking for ways to express themselves. That's why Instagram and Twitter and social media is so popular, is because it gives these people a platform. Music in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that was people's ways of expressing themselves, even if they have no idea what they're doing. I've seen bands who have no idea what they're doing just go and just write whatever they're feeling and write whatever they think sounds good to them. No music theory classes, never took music in school. And they make CDs. Well, not CDs anymore, but
yeah.
But they make songs, they make albums, they make music. And if not a single person buys it, they're okay with it. But if people buy it and can relate to it, they love it because they're reaching people. They're expressing themselves in ways that are relatable, because music is always relatable. Music has always been relatable. So if you can express yourself through music, you can reach people who will agree, at least in some form of fashion, with what you're getting off of your chest.
Exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and cut to a quick break. Now, before we do so, I do want to plug the different ways to support Arrogant Media. Definitely support us by giving us a like on Facebook.com/Arrogant Media. Share the show. I cannot say this enough. Share the show, because without sharing the show, I have a hard time gaining listeners. And I need my listeners. I need you. But also, if you want to financially support Arrogant Media and JavaFog, we have patreon.com/Arrogant Media. For $5 per month, you're able to get access into the Discord that we have. In fact, we have Weirdo in the Discord right now who is listening in as we record. Weirdo, thank you very much for supporting us. It is absolutely appreciated, and it is always appreciated as well. The other way to financially support us is by going to merch.arrogantmedia.net. Pick up a t-shirt, pick up a mug, whatever you think is going to get you that sweet, sweet attention from other people. With that, let's get into this week's trivia. And now it's time for this week's trivia. This week's trivia comes from Michael in Michigan. Did you know that the expression "ooh-woo" is an actual, legitimate expression from a real emotion? If you find your girlfriend doing this, put her in the closet right now. Stay safe out there. And we're back. So, Dark, you have history with doing DJ gigs, and you do this with your brother, actually, with the these events that you do called Reanimated.
Yeah, we've been doing them we're going on our 4th year now. We started in January of, I don't remember which year, but 4 years ago. And we started it as a felling wasn't going on. There was no scene night here for us. And we just wanted some place where we could gather and listen to music and maybe dance. And my brother, Oz, shout out Oz, DJ MDOJ, he likes to do the techno style stuff. And yeah, Iowa has a bigger techno scene than a goth scene, but we didn't have this kind of community that that Aphelion would have brought. Because Aphelion, we love it. We love Aphelion, but they take breaks every now and again. For various reasons, and they were just off for a while, and so we were just tired of not having something for us. So Oz decides that he's going to spend a bunch of money and get a bunch of DJ equipment, and he's going to work on DJing his techno stuff. And we just wanted to do something. So for his birthday, he said, "I'm renting a ballroom. I'm bringing this equipment. You want a DJ?" And I said, "You bet your sweet ass I do," which is fun because I don't swear, but that's a direct quote. And so we just set up. We set up in this ballroom in a hotel, and we just invited people and offered them free pizza, and about 40 people showed up. And so 40 people showed up for me to play whatever kind of music I wanted to play, which was this industrial goth, synth pop, awesome stuff. And then we liked it so much that we decided, hey, do you want to do this again? And yeah, we want to do this again. This worked out really well. If we can get 40 people a night here in Iowa for a random event that 2 amateurs put on, yeah, let's do it. And it's just grown into, every month we've got a night, with the exception of usually December because it's freaking cold. And that has grown to us going to, Japanese anime conventions. And we're going to be at a convention in June, What the Funk Con, I think is what it's called. And it's just, we're just exploding. We're getting gigs, left and right for weddings or random parties or just anything. So this idea that we as 2 amateurs spend a bunch of money on equipment, and now we're exploding into, having our own pages, our own events, our own everything. Everything that a DJ could ever want. We have fans. We have people who buy our merchandise. We have T-shirts. Small plug.
Yeah.
All the
plug your shit.
Yeah. So, just starting with 2 amateurs doing nothing shows that if you're passionate about it, express yourself. Just like we were saying before the break, use your music, use your platform, use your podcast to express yourself. There's going to be people out there who at least think similarly enough to you that they're going to enjoy what you do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. Now, I first attended Reanimated back in 2017. I think it was during the summertime of that year. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it a lot. And I think I knew about it because I'm friends with the person that was running the place at the time. Jason, who is known for popping out all these gigs, even including 319 Fest, which is the yearly music festival that he does. The first time was at a park out off of Mount Vernon, but it just developed, and so you had 40 people at this random gig that you did. Mm-hmm. That's great, actually. Yeah,
well, it turns out if you say there's free pizza and it's for a buddy's birthday, you're gonna get some people to show up.
Yeah. So what is it like DJing for an event?
It's I'm nervous every time. It's any kind of performance you want to do. So my style is going to be a little different than other DJs' styles, but when I'm up there, my job is to make people happy. My job is to perform and make people happy, which is a lot of fun in like the goth community, because you don't think of goths as happy if you're not part of the community, if you don't know a lot of them. But generally, we're all very happy people. We just, we're mad at things. We're upset. We're sad. We have all the normal human emotions, and we just express them differently than other people. or maybe we express them the same. But people see them differently. But when I'm on that platform and I'm spinning whatever music I'm spinning, like I'm paying attention to everybody around me, and I'm seeing, okay, I'm playing this. This is something I like. Will other people like it? And there's always going to be someone who likes it, which is nice. But is this danceable? Is this something that people will dance to? Okay, people are dancing. This is good. I'm going to play something else kind of like this that I also really enjoy and see how they react. And you just kind of gauge the floor. What's getting more people onto the floor? What's making people happier? What's making people want to move and groove? What's getting people interested? What are people responding to? And that's your performance. That's your job as a DJ, is to be this kind of artist in a sense for, everyone who's there to listen to you. And as I say on my little blurb, is that when I'm playing my music, when I see people dancing, I dance harder. I am dancing like I'm on the floor with you guys, even though I'm working and doing my music and doing my pitch changes and everything that you would do on the floor, doing my mixes, doing everything that, that a traditional DJ would be supposed to do. And so that's how you get into the mind of a DJ. You look at the people and what do the people want? How is your performance affecting them? And if you can do that, you'll be a great DJ.
So I've heard the expression before that, well, it's not an expression, but I've heard it expressed that there are DJs out there that are going to play their music as if they're just running music off of an iPod. Have you ever noticed that in clubs or scenes?
I have. It's not as common as people think. Normally, that's like the lazy man's DJ. And a lot of times, people are just into that. People can set up a playlist and just go. And that's like minimal work. I can't say like a lot of the big names do it, but you'll see people who just hook up things for like parties and be like, I'm an iPod DJ. I just put music on and people like it. And that's great for things like hangout parties. If you're just like having a get together and you want people to just hang out in a little dance area so people can just move when they feel like moving. And there's a good time for that. But when you're at a club, when you're at a bar, when you're spinning for people, you want to be part of the performance. Otherwise, I feel like it's just lazy. I feel like that you're not doing your job as much as you could be. And it really shows in your work. Your work will bring people if you're doing it right.
So you were able to demo to me what it's like trying to do your work with DJ equipment. And so this was my firsthand experience of being able to try it out for myself. You recorded a demo for you were auditioning actually, and so that's what the demo was for. You sent it to people who are going to be able to listen to it and determine whether or not you were able to do a gig. But because of that, we made it so that you were able to plug in your DJ set into my recorder or my mixing board, and that went into GarageBand to record the demo. But being able to see the tools and a breakdown of what the tools do was something that was a major learning experience for me. And so you're not just pressing play and just letting this list of songs go through. You are actively loading each song as you're queuing them up to be ready to be played, and then you also time things to make sure that the transition from one song to another is as fluid as possible and natural sounding. So I think I've asked you about this before, but can you explain how you're determining what song you're queuing up and then how you're making that transition sound as natural as possible?
Yeah, that's what I think of as one of the hard parts of DJing, at least in the technical aspect of it. So when I'm doing a gig and I'm watching the floor, I'm going to see, if I see something that works, I'm going to go through my music, and you have to know your music, and say, this song I know sounds very similar to what I'm playing now. Will this transition well? Is this something that the crowd will still enjoy? And so you load up your song on your second track, whatever track you're not playing, and you listen. And that's the big part of it, is you have to be able to listen. You need a keen ear for musical beats, musical pitch, things like that. I would say you need that. You might not absolutely need it, but I'm 100% certain it helps. And then, so you listen and you sync up the beat in your head, and you might tap your foot, you might tap your thumb on the table, just something, and you listen and go, how does this sync up? Am I listening to this right? Is the pitch the same? Is it close enough that I can get away with it? Is the BPM the same? Is it 135 to 126? BPM transition, which is going to be much slower. How do I make these songs sound like they're almost the same? And that's how you work it. And you work it from one song to another, and you make these slow, fluid transitions, and it leads to a meshing. It leads to, you don't want the people listening to know when that next song has started, but you still want them to recognize that the songs are different, which I think sets the music I play apart from some techno, where you feel like you're listening to the same song for the last 3 hours with only minor changes. Yes, that's me bashing techno. Not that I don't love techno, because I do, but it's a noticeable change, and you want to make that change as subtle as possible from one song to the next. Whereas in techno, you don't need to do that, because they're all going to sound fairly similar, within reason. No letters, please.
Okay. And is there any advice that you can give to somebody who is looking into beginning DJing?
Yes. Do it. Practice.
Yeah.
There's no replacement for practice. Listen to your music. Play the music you love. Play the music you know best. Start with easy songs with easy recognizable beats. Start with beats that sound similar. Start with the same BPM and see if you can't mix one song into another. Or play the two songs at the same time and see if you can't mesh them together really well. Techno is really good for that, for meshing those songs together. And music like what I play, the industrial, the EBM, the synth, those songs, you can find them with similar beats, similar enough that you can mesh them together, at least some of them, so that you can play two songs at the same time, and it's not this chaos of noise like if you were to take, I don't know, a doom metal and a black metal song and play them together. You're going to have a cataclysm of noise. Not that noise won't be awesome, but it'll just be a different sound. And so the advice for beginners, get a program, get a free program, get, I don't know, Virtua DJ or something like that, plug Virtua DJ, and just play with it. Load up the music you like. Load up the music that you think has a good beat that you can dance to, or the music that you're going to want to play. If you like rap music, if you want to play rap rave music like DeAntword, shout out DeAntword, and play it. Just play it and find songs like it. Do your Google search. Say, artists like DeAntword. And just find it. Just find what you like and play it together and see what meshes. And so experiment. Be industrial. Use experimental noises. Just do it.
Oh, yeah. So, last question before we wrap this up then. Are there any... you were talking about getting 18, 20-year-olds into the music scene and helping to introduce them into the world that we have. What are some modern artists or some of today's artists that you can think of that would be good to get people introduced into the scene?
Oh, there's lots of them. I would start with what they know. Start with this radio rock. Start with what you would hear on the radio. Start with your Nine Inch Nails. Start with your Marilyn Manson and Rammstein, and find what these people like, and then build on it. Do scaffolding, and say, oh, you like this metal song, you like Disturbed, then here's another artist that sounds like Disturbed. Maybe they'll like Cell Dweller, or maybe they'll like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe they'll like New Ministry or New KMFDM, who we bring up a lot because they're like founders.
Yeah.
Or a band I hear you like a little bit at least. Maybe they'll like Hansel and Gretel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
He's got a big smile on his face just by mentioning them.
Oh, I pre-ordered the new album, and I can't wait for that thing to come out. Oh, man.
We'll have to listen to it. But, yeah, get them interested in this music that they wouldn't hear on the radio that's at least close. And then you can say, oh, you like this? Well, here's another style that's similar, but it's got a little different. And then you'll get him into like the V&V Nation, the Assemblage 23. You can go older school with like Icon of Coil. You can go new school with like Biffy Clyro or who I'm a big fan of. You can go into Black Ops. There's a whole bunch of different groups that you can say, these people are doing well. I like them. Maybe you'll like them too. Give it a listen. This is not what you're going to hear on the radio. You're not going to hear it anywhere else outside of this scene. And by doing that, you're going to get people interested. Share songs when they come out. I'm friends on social media with a man named James Esper, who is part of, or whose project is called Esper Machine, he had a song on one of the Extreme Sundance Falls, and I was like, this guy wants to be my friend? Why? But now, like, I can message him, and he sent out a message saying, hey, I'm putting out something new. Let me know if you want to hear it. I'm like, yes, send it to me. So, like, that's how you get new songs. That's how you get new things. Support these people that are making the music, that are expressing themselves, and you're going to find people that will connect with it. So find people that connect with it. Share it. Make sure that the people you like have the platform that they need to reach as many people as they can. And young people are always looking for ways to express themselves, so they're going to find it. There's going to be young people that relate, and then they'll get into it, and then they're going to share what they like. They're going to give this chain reaction, or a daisy chain, if you want to call it that, that will just lead to the scene staying alive and growing and getting more of their friends into it too. It'll just explode that way.
Oh, exactly. Now, let's go ahead and wrap up the episode. And for you, Dark, I want you to plug whatever you can, whether it's local or not local. Plug.
All right, so for my basic information, you can find me on the social medias, DJ Dark Inc., that's INQ. So find me on social media. You can find me on the YouTubes. I just started a new channel. It's going to have the demo that we were talking about. It's going to be Dark of All Trades. So DARKOFALLTRADES. I would spell that faster, but I'm a little tired. So go to Aphelion, taking place, I think they got it now once a month, and I think it's December 22nd, whatever that Sunday or Saturday is, down in Iowa City. Go. Just experience it. Come see us at Reanimated. Check out the Reanimated Cedar Rapids page on social media to keep updated on that. DJ MDOJ, who I would not be able to do any of this without him. Find him on social media, DJ MDOJ, or M-Dodge, as I like to call him, although I don't know if he likes that very much. Go to your conventions. Support your local DJs. Support DJs you love. Like anybody you would find, anybody that you find that expresses things that you want to express as well. Support them.
Absolutely. So, all right. Thank you, Dark, for joining with this episode. And
My pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. I want to thank the listeners for listening in as well. Thank you, Weirdo, for sitting into the show. Until next time, keep your boots full.
So long as these problems are not solved, so long as ignorance and poverty remain on earth, these words cannot be used.